Hi, everybody. How are you? Okay, I'm going to advance the slide. I push the button here. There we go. What's happening today with trade, the elephant in the room? Check it out. Okay, by the way, I came up with the title of this thing, Elephant in the Room, a few weeks ago. I've never heard it mentioned in this conference, and it was mentioned 3 times this morning, Elephant in the Room. And notice, by the way, this is a little creepy because it's AI and everybody has the exact same nose. It's kind of funny. But no one's looking at the elephant. So we're talking to the elephant here for a second, okay? Anybody recognize that song? Did anybody recognize the song? Who recognized it? Okay, who was it? Who sang it? Harry Nilsson, 1968. I liked his music, and I'll tell you why I had that song play. A couple weeks ago, I just went out and spent a whole week talking to clients, customers, and prospects, just a big coverage call. They were all talking about it, okay? They were all talking about it. My neighbors, they see me now. They don't complain about my fungus in the yard anymore that's going to their yard. They're like, Mark, oh, Tariffs, what's happening? What are you doing? Because they know my business. My neighbors are talking about it. And even I had lunch 2 days ago with my nephew. My nephew lives here in DC. Haven't seen him for a number of years. He's getting married in the 1st of June. I'm so excited talking about getting married. He goes, Uncle Mark, what about the tariffs? He doesn't even bring up the fact that he's getting married in a few weeks. Anyway, everyone's talking about it. And in Harry Nilsson, so for whatever reason, I heard that song in April, and it's been going through my mind constantly, this song. Everybody's talking, and that's why I put on that song. Everybody's talking about tariffs, okay? So talking to BAFT, we just recognized, by the way, originally BAFT, it's an acronym, right? It was originally Bankers, if I got this right, Todd, Bankers Association of Foreign Trade. Then it was changed to Bankers Association of Finance and Trade. And then when we rebranded it, I think it's just BAFT, right? That's how it works. So, but originally it was foreign trade. So so it's important for us to talk about foreign trade. So, but there is some nervousness about bringing it up. Some of the banks, I don't want my name, you know, I don't want anybody to have my bank name when we're talking about trade and maybe complaining about it. So this is what I did. I reached out to a whole bunch of regional U.S. banks. They're kind of unique because in BAFT, we reach out to our correspondent banks to help us with support, but we also talk to our clients on a daily basis, and they're doing trade. So I reached out to a whole bunch of them. I talked to a Canadian bank, a European bank, a Mexican bank, and I said, I want to know what's happened in the month of April. What have your clients have been saying? And it's all redacted. I'm not going to mention your bank, and I'm not going to mention the customer. We're going to go through that. Okay, in 16 minutes. You got 35 minutes there, Nick. Okay, here we go. I kind of I got tons of responses, so I had to color it through a little bit, but I titled this one Letters of Credit. I'm going to read some of that first paragraph because it's very good, I think. Customer X imports automotive parts from China under an import letter of credit. Goods are en route on a ship, but the tariff obligation is now more than the drawing of the letter of credit. Okay, a customer desperately wants to back out, so ask the bank to find discrepancies. That's an interesting point, okay? Find the discrepancies, okay? I'll keep reading. Bank will likely pay, customer X is trying to negotiate with the Chinese company outside of the LC to pay half of the tariff. We'll try to divert supply chain going forward, but goods will definitely be more expensive, resulting in customer X raising their prices for U.S. domestic sales. Pretty obvious situation, right? Now I just put some other things. There's just documents returned from Chinese banks with no comment, with repeated SWIFT messages. I thought this last one was actually a little funny. Manager received SWIFT message stating a discrepancy that the person hasn't seen in 30 years. The individual reached out to a whole bunch of friends that do the same business, and they said the same thing. So obviously, we've always had to deal with companies, banks trying to find discrepancies, but it seems a little urgent here in April, okay? Next, Main Street. I put this under Main Street. The state of Kansas produces the most sorghum of any state in the United States. Of all the sorghum produced in the United States, about 50% of that sorghum goes to China. Right now, China is taking none of that from the United States, buying all from Brazil. And by the way, I'm really not coming up with solutions, and I'm not making any political statements. I'm just stating what's going on in April, okay? Next, at the first of the year, meat exporter into China had duties on pork products with a VAT, the total plus VAT totaled, what is that, 49%. Now, duties and VAT tax are 196%. That's what imagine the customer. Supply chain transaction, I think this is also interesting. U.S. importer buys from Chinese supplier on 120-day terms. Bank discounts the invoice. The supplier sources in China. Also, now China's supplier will continue to buy from the Chinese supplier, right? They want to keep that going. And what are they going to do? They're going to keep it in a warehouse for 180 days and simply wait out the tariff. And we heard a little bit of that this morning. The macro group, we're the micro group, okay? Okay, I went too far. Can you go back? Can you go back one slide? We also got random quotes from people. Now, I'm just quoting, reading it. Ready? And some of this might be, but remember, this is April. U.S. is done for exports. Okay, we have major duties placed on our exports while Apple gets a pass under de minimis duty waivers. Okay, the de minimis duty waivers went away on May 2nd. We'll see, there's some exemptions still, but it seemed to be, from all the information I got, this de minimis issue is a big deal. Okay, China tariff equals 150 loss per cow for American calf and cow operators. I think that's because the cost of the tariff has to be passed on to the producer, right? Okay, here we go. Imports. Freight company that imports various types of products, boats, bicycles, trailers, party goods, doors, windows, had a 67% decrease in business in April. Okay, importer from China, okay, gauges. Okay, this is, I think, an interesting point because we deal with a lot of companies that they prepay for part of the product and post-pay after shipment for the other half. So paid the supplier 50% to get the order produced, right? And then the balance was ready to ship. They had a $100,000 order that was about to be shipped when tariffs went into effect. They still need the products, so they're sourcing in Taiwan. But they have a good chunk of their cash flow prepaid for Chinese orders that they can possibly postpone for a future, again, waiting it out, or in 6 months. Okay, so of the Chinese just kept the deposits, or they get stuck with a loss. So they have some issues. But the important point here is either way, they will need additional capital from bank to weather the cycle. Okay? This is just, I thought, a builder, importer and installer of windows for large home builders will not have the ability to pass increased cost to home builders for the long-term contracts when the de minimis duties go into effect in May. It affects our building, our home building. European export, this is actually pretty funny. I thought European exporter of fine wine to U.S. not affected, as buyers that are willing to pay for expensive wine will continue to buy even more expensive wine and boast about that to the price of France. If you're going to pay a lot of money for wine, right, you're going to pay even more money for wine, and you're going to talk to your neighbor and say, oh, for sure, I spent this much money on a bottle of wine. TJ shaking his head like, Okay, U.S. exports, just a couple examples. How we doing? Company X, an exporter of petrochemical products, reroutes goods on water originally destined to China to buyer in different country after tariffs were announced. Okay, interesting. Okay, now I would say that my view is that commodity-based stuff, right? Not a lot of value in the product. You can have that opportunity to maybe to sell it to different buyers. Large protein exporter that sources and sells globally has stopped selling to China and diverted sales to other countries, selling meat to China, sourced from Uruguay and Brazil. So just has it's a company, and I think those big global companies don't have that much of a challenge because they can take from other places. Okay, North America. I just put it North America because you can guess there's some Canadian and Mexico issues here. Manufacturing company has several projects in their pipeline, some in Mexico, some in Canada, all to be completed this year. All projects have been put on pause, partly out of economic confidence and some out of total annoyance with the U.S. administration. Okay, vehicles are Canada's second most valuable export. How much is that? 51 billion. 93% of these are sent to the U.S. The Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association says Canadian plants made 1.5 million passenger vehicles in 2023 and employed 28,000 people. Those numbers will be negatively impacted if the new tariffs persist. Then this last one, several companies already had a presence on both sides of the border, and they believe they can find ways to navigate around the tariffs through intercompany sales. For example, it does seem like in our business we see a lot of direct foreign investment coming up, so that maybe they take advantage of this. Okay, I think we might have some more quotes. No, steel. Steel is one of the big industries we talk about a lot. And I think this was interesting. So you can tell that one of the companies exports into the U.S., that top. The cost of these tariffs, and steel and aluminum tariffs are layered on top, would be enormous. The cost for our customers be in the billions, and it's ultimately likely to shut the industry down if the waiver doesn't come through and stay out of place. But the next paragraph is a different company. It's obvious a company here in the United States that makes steel. The reinstatement of the uniform 25% tariff on all steel imports, effective March 1st, eliminates the competitive price advantage previously enjoyed by companies like Brazil, Mexico, EU, South Korea, and Canada. So the opposite view. It's a benefit to them. But we do see, and it states here in this last paragraph, that the future prices of steel will go up. What I highlighted, markets' anticipation of reduced import competition, and tighter domestic supply. Anyway, interesting. Okay, I think I have some more quotes. Yeah, there are a whole bunch of products that cost less than $800. That's why I think there's a lot of talk about the de minimis rule. Mentioned the Chinese company exploded in growth due to the minimis loophole rule, not just Amazon. Okay, wouldn't it be more than a week before we would see vehicle production in North America grind to a halt? And this last point, again, this information was taken the month of April, just right after the announcements were made. But I think this maybe I like this maybe there's some positive effects here. Some of the initial frenzy with the tariffs were first announced. It's paving the way for more controlled reactions to day-to-day news. I do think that I see that